Yes, we'll see how it goes. Definitely, this is going to be an interesting conversation.
Yes, I was saying it might be an eyebrow raising. My ex-husband could raise individually his eyebrows. I can only do both of them at once. Can you do one eyebrow at once?
One, not both.
Yeah, this is an eyebrow raising subject today. So we're going to talk about the challenge of porn use today, and we're hoping you'll stick with us. We're hoping that this will be very informative and helpful and normalize some of the conversation, because I think that's the hard thing when conversations become not normal. The part that you could talk about, that's when things get really messed up in our own heads and our relationships. And so here we are at the new streamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast, #1 internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. Oh, yes.
We're going to dive in.
Yeah, I think I want to preface this by saying that there is the often used quote that basically that porn has given men a distorted view of sex. Yeah. The same is true for women with Hallmark movies. Yeah, so is that some extreme? But the reality is it's not quite the same as that. But just want to put that, that's one of those things people talk about. But the reality is porn use tends to be more impacting men than women, because more men watch porn than women watch porn, as far as I'm aware. I'm not an actual study, but one of the reports I've heard about, it does impact men more. And we may go down the rabbit hole of the whole with incels and other things too, because unfortunately what porn does for a lot of men is it separates them from real relationship, which we're going to get into much more detail.
Yes. And it gives them also generally, if that's really a lot of their experience with watching how a woman acts during sexual relationships, that most women don't act like that at all. Right. And so then the part that affects women is men often expect us to be writhing and screaming and effortlessly reaching multiple orgasms quickly, that it hinders our enjoyment too. And then if women have watched it at all, they think, what's wrong with me? Right. That I don't, have an orgasm in 2.5 seconds and can't have 12 in a row, and that he hardly has to do anything to me. Because I'll tell you, that's not the truth. For 90%, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say 90%, might be higher than that, but I'll just start with 90% of the women in the world. And certainly not every time. We're not like that every time. So yes, there's some very detrimental things that can happen to the man's self-confidence, to his ability to learn what would please a woman, to the woman who now feels unsatisfied because the man thinks she should be doing something different. He thinks she should be doing, or we feel inadequate because we don't do what the porn says. So what I always say to people, the bad side of porn is if it's adversely affecting your personal connection emotionally, mentally, and physically, and spiritually, depending on how you care about porn, with the other person that's really important to you. If it's adversely affecting it, then it's bad. You shouldn't be doing whatever you're doing that's now making it feel bad. It's taking time away. It's making both of you feel unsatisfied. It's making both of you feel frustrated or angry or embarrassed. Then that's not the right kind of use for it. There's some great uses for it, and we'll certainly address that. But if it's affecting you negatively, then stop, and we'll give you some ideas of how to do it differently so that it could be really positive, can be very positive.
Yeah, and just a couple of illustrative points as well. I mean, I want to say this out loud. I have a few friends who are in the adult entertainment industry, women who are in that business. And to the best of my understanding, because I'm thinking the two women in particular both have boyfriends, that the way they have their sex life at home is very different from what is on camera. And of course, the thing about being a porn movie, it is a movie. And like actors in regular movies portray things they're not, the same is true in porn movies. It's no different in that sense. So in fact, I would suggest, and I may be inaccurate at this, but the sex that happens in regular movies is still distorting from what is in reality too, because the whole thing is meant to be a certain way and a certain sense of in quotes, success, as in it's done right and everyone's winning and everyone's happy. That's the way it's set up to be. And unfortunately, sex isn't always like that in real life.
Yes. And I've actually met a few people that have been acting in pornographic movies, because that's the whole big word for it. Yes. And the thing is, when you look at a movie of any sort, they have writers, they have directors, they have retakes, they have lighting, they have scripted, do this next, say this next, have this look on your face next, make this sound next. Now, I do know that there are some real sounds and real things that do happen. Yes, hopefully they're in some sort of a sync where everybody's having a reasonably good time. It certainly isn't always, I've heard. And the one thing that's sad, I was going to say good news, bad news. It's really only bad news. We women can fake the whole thing. I mean, everybody saw When Harry Met Sally, and they brought it out this year at the Super Bowl. Yep. Cracked me up, because she looks like she's having the best time just sitting at that table, and has the great big orgasm right there in the restaurant that the lady says she wants to eat the same thing she's got on her plate. That men can't. That's the hard part about for men. You can't fake eating hard. You can't make fake having an ejaculation. It's just, I mean, maybe they can, but we're just going to say you can't. So the whole point of coming together physically as a couple is for equal pleasure for both people. So
yes,
generally, that's not the point of the pornographic movie. The point of it is to sell the movie and have people pay to watch it, and to turn themselves on, and maybe turn another person on at the same time. So there's nothing, we need to say that generally there's nothing real, like in the Hallmark movies. There's nothing real. I'm happy that it makes you feel good. Maybe it gives you hope of, wow, I could maybe feel that way someday. I could fall in love with somebody. I could have 3 orgasms in 3 hours. And it's all too much to live up to. It's not anything to aspire to what's actually happening on the screen in the Hallmark movie. And I love that you brought that up, because it's such a good contrast for the male and female sides of our listeners, don't you think?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. One thing I want to go back to, you said about, because in the porn industry, in the adult entertainment industry, because it is an entertainment movie industry, like all movies, there are multiple takes. And yes, all the makeup, lighting, hair, everything else that goes with it, so everything looks perfect. But the thing I want to talk to is takes, as in take 1, take 2, as in repeating acts. The thing about the movies, it is usually the polished, finished product of that scene done right. And it may have been 1 take, it may have been 25 takes. But when you're in bed with somebody, you don't say, okay, reset with the camera, we'll start over again. Because the truth is, when we're in that mode, it's ideally organic and orgasmic, but also spontaneous and also unscripted. So the truth is that it's not going to match that, in quotes, polished result that's on camera. And so the illusion that somehow we should match that, or we should step up to that level, or somehow be compared with, it's a no-win situation. And so really taking the choice of saying, you know, well, what we do with each other, what we do with our partners, is something that is unique to us, and whatever happens, happens. And just to take that for a moment, is hopefully most people realize in relationships, if you've been through several relationships, your partner in this relationship maybe is a little different than one in past relationships. So there's going to be different reactions, different sounds, different feelings, different triggers, different traumas, different issues as well that the other person didn't have. So there's no formula, is what I'm trying to say, is that if you think that you do the same thing every time, you're going to get the same result, it's not likely to happen. So to take the time to get to know your partner, and we can do a whole course about how to have better sex and better relationships when you get to intercourse, because it's about discovering, about really learning about each other, and being willing to have a conversation. Because frankly, most people, when they're having sex, don't want to say a word except dirty words, or even that. It's like, you know, how do you communicate what you need? How do you communicate what you're asked for? If you want to try new things, if you want them to stop doing something. You know, can you do it in a way that's additive versus subtractive to the experience as well?
Oh my, yes. We are definitely going to do that. I'm going to add that definitely to the list. How to be a better lover on both sides. I think we'll see how well that passes. We'll get Cece's eyebrows up for that.
Yes.
And the other thing that my male clients are so relieved that my mother used to talk about sex over dinner, and my friends loved coming to dinner because they could ask my mom the questions they would never ask their parents. So I am so comfortable talking about it with them. And one of the things, yes, every man is different. Generally, you do have some things that lots of you like, and there's things that you might like that's different than the other. There's a lot more similarities in what is more consistent with pleasing a man than pleasing a woman between women. And then the thing I'm here to tell you, because I live in one of those 2X bodies, is I might want something different tomorrow than I wanted today because I'm more tense, or I'm more relaxed, or I'm more playful, or I'm more tired. I want faster. No, I want slower because I have more energy, and depending on the time of the day and whether or not we had a fight with our mother, I mean, how we're feeling about you emotionally. So that's the thing where when you just watch generally a pornographic movie, there's not a lot of this person's body and what's going on with them taken into consideration. My thing has always been, I like pretty people and a story. I'm fine with lots of other latitude, but I have to have a story. I'm a girl. I like having a story.
Absolutely. And that for me is the thing that really comes up, is the challenge, I think, in a lot of ways, some of the porn use, as that's the conversation we're having, is oftentimes I suspect, not saying it's true, but I suspect a lot of times that men who are single may watch more porn than men in a relationship. So they've been basically spending their time immersed in, for want of a better word, the look of a certain woman in a certain porno movie. Maybe multiple different women, different shows, but there's an attachment to that way of being. And so again, reality doesn't match the movies. So when you're with somebody, you may think, well, if I do this, this, and this, she'll have that experience. And 90% of the time, you're going to be wrong. So I can say it again, the willingness to communicate, to articulate, and to discover what works is way more effective and way more successful, ideally, in quotes, for both partners, than just using what you learned or watching a porno that happened while you were single.
Yeah. You know? Oh, yeah. Such a good point. So I have male and female clients and talk to them individually about if a man has a desire to watch pornographic movies. Lots of women think that means that they don't care about them, that they don't desire them, that they're only wanting the person on the screen. And barring that single men can suddenly get attached. I mean, I know some of them who women on their movies, they get so many views because they're a favorite of people for whatever reason it is. There's a lot of men that watch particular women. And still a healthy man, a heterosexual man who's desiring a woman to be with her body, to be skin to skin with her, to fall in love with her, to want to please her in all sorts of ways in and out of bed, will fall in love with how she looks more because he's in person with her and he's having a heart-centered connection with her. So I tell women, that's why we need to get comfortable with how our bodies are on our own so that we don't think, oh my God, he's going to look at what's poking out or shouldn't be poking in or sagging somewhere. Because if he loves you, he loves all of your body. So to say, does he have a desire to watch pornographic movies? And do you have a desire to watch it with him or not? I mean, it's such an important conversation that I encourage people to have. And what's the point? Is it that, you know, he would like sex 4 days a week and you would like sex twice a week? Would it be all right enough with you if he watched a pornographic movie and had an orgasm by himself, that he masturbated by himself? Could you have that conversation? Not saying it's taking anything away from you. He's still happy to be there the 2 days that you want him and doing other things with you and for you. It's just a release for him.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a possibility? And the women I know that watch porn more than most women, it's partly because their significant other isn't as interested in having sexual relations as often as they are. So they'll use the pornograph with pretty picture and stories. We all kind of confirm that we want stories.
Yes.
And the part that we like the best, whatever it is we like best done to our body, we can find a bunch of those because they do it in categories. So as long as it's still that you're engaging with the other person, you're still caring about the other person, you're still making love with the other person, then I work at having people make it okay enough that the other person can now watch a pornographic movie and not get chastised for it, and you won't feel insecure. Boy,
Right.
that's an interesting conversation, huh, Barry?
It's really, I always say it's an advanced conversation because it's something that people don't think about. Like, how do you have this conversation? And it is, I know that there's been a slate in recent years of women directed pornographic movies or adult movies. So the storytelling part, which you're asking for, is definitely more evident in those sort of movies, I believe. I'm not watched them, so I don't know for sure, but it sounds like there's more of a care for the women in it, because the original porn industry was very much about objectifying, which is what men have been taught to do, unfortunately. And actually, we speak to that now, frankly, it's one of the things about porn use, is most of the traditional pornographic movies and porn magazines and online media have tended to make women the objects, which unfortunately is why I think a lot of times in society we have challenges, because men haven't learned, unfortunately, or have learned to denigrate women rather than respecting them. And so there's a downside to porn use, absolutely, that is not in favor of women by any amount, because there's not been a respectable way for men to understand women and sex together. It was a demeaning and a domineering and a controlling thing, which, hey, some women, they rock and roll on that, and it's great. But for most women, they want to be met on a level of equality, ideally, and level of respect, which most porn movies don't usually show. They may be entertaining, but underneath it all, there's still the sense that women become the objects, not the partners, which is a real issue for relationships.
All across the board with relationships, Barry, that is such a good point. And that leaves open the door that there are times when one person, the man or the woman, would like the other person to be more dominant. You know, the bodice ripping romance novels that are still very popular. It's amazing. I still see them out there, so they must be selling, even with us very advanced, working world, our own money, our own houses, there's still a lot of women who have that desire inside of them to have a man nicely, kindly, very masculine come in and overpower her and, make love to her in ways that she's never been made love to before. And, that's sometimes part of the story, part of a sex film.
Yeah.
And then it's always in our minds done respectfully. There's always the respect for us that we always have a chance to say no. We have a chance to say what we want and what we don't want. The other thing that's happened along that same line was in the movies, especially the ones that you're talking about, no never meant no, which was so bad for both men and women. Oh my gosh. In the movie or in the books, every woman eventually said yes, no matter what he was asking, no matter what he was doing. That was in the script, or that was in the story. And we need to pay 100% attention to that, because I think that's where a lot of the disconnect comes from, where men were taught, but if I just keep doing one more thing or keep asking or pushing, she really wants to say yes. That we women now say, I need you to know about my no. I have a very firm no. I have a safe word or whatever it is you're going to use. And I need you to honor it the minute it comes out of my mouth, because I will be so much more happier and relaxed being in your arms and naked with you if I know I still have total control over my body, because no really means no. And the women who don't do that are very confusing to men. Oh, no, no. And then they really do mean yes. And then they're mad that he didn't pursue more. I've had 2 women complain about that lately. And I was like, well, that's terrible.
So we're going to take a break in a moment. So do you want to do a quick
intro?
Yes.
I got, this subject, I get carried away.
Agreed, yes.
If you'd like to talk about this subject with Barry or I, as you see, we're very happy to talk about it. So the best way to get a hold of me is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Scroll down to the middle, you'll find a questionnaire that says, what's holding you back from love? Click on that, answer 10 brief questions about where you are now and where you'd like to be, and you'll have access to my online calendar. You can have a private complimentary conversation with me. You can also send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. Take it away, Barry.
So same for me. If you want to reach out to me on my website, you go to my site, which is barryselby.com. And in the top of the screen, there's a button that just says schedule a chat or have a chat with me. And that takes you to my calendar and also a form you fill out. And that'll give you some questions to navigate through and also set up time for us to chat. We do a Zoom call usually because it's much easier because we can see each other, which I like a lot. And hopefully you do too. And that is getting my calendar. We get you set up and see where you want to go. And it's a complimentary gift from me to you. And yes, you can always drop me an email as well at barryselby.com if you want to chat. But definitely go to my site, check out the stuff that's there. And we'll talk about more of that at the end of the show.
And we're going to go to a commercial break about our wonderful station. We'll be right back.
See you in a moment.
Hi, we're back with Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry, and today we're talking about the challenges of porn use. Scintillating conversation that it can be.
Yes. So.
Yeah, woof. Did you have something you wanted to say, sir?
Well, I mentioned right at the beginning about the challenge with incel, as in involuntary celibate boys and men. I think that's been exacerbated or exaggerated because men haven't had a lot of experience talking to women on equal terms, and they may have objectified them because they've been addicted to porn or just attracted to porn because it was an easy way to get their rocks off or to be stimulated or turned on without having to be involved with another human being. And there are many men who are not in that category. And that category, frankly, is an interesting category because, frankly, it just means men who don't have relationships. Like, okay, I haven't been in a relationship for 18 years. Does that mean I'm not an incel? Because it's not involuntary. I'm choosing that. So let's be clear. But the thing is that that label becomes also a paintbrush people get painted with, which is not accurate. But the thing I want to say about it is there's a societal challenge, I think, in a lot of ways, that men and women haven't been friends much in life. And this is a whole other topic as well, but on this one. And so, unfortunately, what men's viewpoint of women has not been through a normal lens of friendship, socialization, maybe sisters, and maybe that sort of thing, but not much any other way. And so men's view of women has been really sort of confined to sexual stimulus through porn use. And as I said earlier about how women see relationships through the lens of Hallmark movies, some women, that's their fantasy look of what a relationship should look like. So again, we're not talking about that here, but the reality is that both men and women have stimulating formats to get their feedback on what they think a relationship should be like, which is inaccurate.
Such a good point, because it's fantasy. It's made up. It's all, and I don't have any problem with fantasy. I don't have any problem with things made up. I have a problem when people think that can be translated into the real world, and it isn't, and it's disappointing. It's one of the ways that women decided that men, all these men in the Hallmark movies, they just know the right thing to say. They know how to apologize. They always come back. It's not generally how real men work. And when we understand how real men work, we act better towards you.
Yeah.
So one of my things that I like, that I've seen and paid attention to in some of the sex movies, is There's some really good teachers out there. I mean, I'm a huge fan of sex therapists. I've sent a few couples, generally couples. I've sent a couple single people, mostly couples, to sex therapists, because this is generally somebody who talks you through your sexual relationship, talks about what you're worried about, what you like, what you don't like, what you would like your partner to do or not do. And you talk about it in an office, a regular clinical office, and then you leave and you go home to your own four walls and practice it. They generally don't come and practice with you. There are some that's a very specific, paid for, they have degrees and licenses and they get medical checks. So there is that too. But for people who don't want, think, I don't want a sex therapist, I'm ready, I want to do something on my own, look online and really look for somebody that's a teacher. There's a couple of guys and a couple of women that I've now found that I'm huge fans of that walk you through with a naked partner. They will show you with their naked partner what to do, that to keep having a conversation about with the women. Do you like this? Is this something you like? I'm going to try this. Because I was having a conversation yesterday with somebody and I said, one of the good parts about boys is your parts are all out there. And the hard part about girls are ours are all tucked away. And we haven't even always explored them. So if you find somebody that's a good teacher, this is the reason they're there, is to teach you how to learn your body and the other person's body better. Watch it together. Please watch it together. I've had people come back going, I never knew that thing. I never understood that thing. It answered so many questions, because sometimes you don't even know what you would like for a bunch of reasons. And so how fun to go, well, let's try that. Would I like that? Do you like that? I'm going to try that. So please, I think that's one of the biggest benefits about it out there. And lots of it's for free. It really is. There's lots of things out there that are lovely and instructive and helpful for free.
And just to be clear, what we're talking about here is the opposite in some senses of porn, because porn is not an educational format. The challenge people think is that watching porn movies and reading about porn in magazines or looking at pornographic pictures is educational. And the truth is that, and we talked about this in other episodes about learning about your partner, it requires an education to become a better partner in a relationship and better partner in sex as well. And the idea of thinking that porn is your high school diploma level education is not true. It's escapism, yes. It's fantasy, yes. It's entertainment, yes. But not really educational. And so what you're talking about is having videos and books and descriptions online. You can learn things about how to be with your partner in a way that is healthy and constructive. And this is very different, even though it may evolve, as you said, like naked bodies. It really is about the teaching within that framework that gives you the skills to be a better partner with the partner you're with or partner you're going to be with, and much healthier way of approaching it. So definitely recommend that as an opportunity.
Much healthier way. Because one of the challenges is lots of women have been discouraged, from exploring their body. I remember, I still have the book, Our Body, Ourselves, where they said, get out a mirror. You're supposed to do it in a big group. Even though I am not very modest, I didn't do it in a big group, but I got out a mirror. That's the other thing. If you do watch, you'll be fascinated how different everybody looks. Oh my gosh. Shapes, sizes, colors. It's just so fascinating, because everybody wants to go, am I normal? Yeah. You're so normal because you're different than everybody else. There's hardly anybody that looks the same, which is kind of a fascinating thing to find out. And that if you truly want to let your partner please you and you really want to please them, then figuring out on your own what makes you feel good, what way do you like to be touched, how long do you like to be touched, where, how, so that you now can tell the other person, this is generally what I like, would you do this, and we'll see how that works. Because if you don't, then everybody's literally shooting in the dark, which is not very helpful, which is why lots of people have very unsatisfying sex lives. And then they turn to porn and shopping and too much TV and eating too much. Because the thing I've learned over my years of being on the earth, people that have generally good sex lives with a partner or however many people, they don't talk about it very much. They talk about it some, but people who are unhappy, they talk about it all the time. About how unhappy they are and how unsatisfied, and it's not often enough, or the other person wants it too often. And if you could get yourself in a rhythm of what kind of touching you need, you know, how much foreplay do you need? How much after cuddling do you need? That the whole act of having sex with another person, really making love, which is what I love telling people I learned by marrying my husband. It was such an eye-opening thing that you now see, oh, if we're going to watch a sex movie, it will just enhance, because we don't want anything to take away from it. We just want something that will add to it. And you will only pick the ones that add. And I know people, a couple of people, especially that had been sexually molested younger, they like the added noise of other people, even if it's fake, you know, the moaning and groaning and stuff in the background. And I thought, well, how good that they found that out, that was really helpful for them. It like gave them more freedom. It took them out of their heads. Because one of the hard things about somebody who's been molested is that you're very in your head when somebody touches your body. And what other means do you have of getting out of your head? Some people have used music. Some people have used like that calm, you know, the whooshing, shushing of the ocean and stuff. And I have two people actually that they have their favorite X-rated movie that they just run in the background because the sounds help them. I find it fascinating.
That's an interesting, I mean, just to be transparent, no, the sexual experience is not just the physical part. It's also the visual, the auditory, the smells, and the taste, everything else. So finding ways to add quality, add sensation, add stimulation to the other areas of that experience, so that when you're with your partner, it isn't just two naked bodies together. It's almost like you can make it more conducive, more enjoyable. That's why there's lotions and various things you can do together that really adds to the experience. So having audio, and I don't mean like you know, the best songs ever. I mean, it depends what you like, but yeah, it can be music, but it also can be different sounds or audio effects that provide the vibration or the feeling that gives you the sense of comfort in the space where you can enjoy yourself together. Because yeah, absolutely, there's gonna be things that turn you off and things that turn you on. And of course, if you're having love to partner, meanwhile there's so much noise going on outside the bedroom because there's either the kids or the neighbors or the city, whatever's going on, be able to, I don't want to say drown it out, but certainly to mute it by having more conducive sound in the room with you can really be additive as well. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I loved hearing it because it's like, you use those sound machines to sleep. Well, this is what we use when we're making love. I went, well, that just makes sense to me. Yeah. And I'm glad you figured out what works. Yeah. I mean, you know, people want incense and candles and sound. Okay. Some people want no sound. Some people want different sounds.
Right.
But porn has such a bad name. It just does, because of all the reasons that we've brought up on this, because it started out very demeaning. I think to men too. I really do. Because the men I know personally and professionally would never force a woman, would never want to make her feel badly. And so they go ew about those kind of movies too. And the visual is such an essential part of men. I mean, you like watching us. You like watching us when we just come in the room, and you really like watching us when you're making us feel good, whatever that does. So that's why the porn industry, the movies are so appealing to you, because you're getting your visual. That's really important to you. And so that's why I said I can get my visual if you have pretty people and a nice story. I'm okay with that visual. So to talk about with yourself what it is you like and you think you could tolerate, and then say to the other person, I could do this. Let me try this with you. Or I'll watch this with you and I'll see, do I feel comfortable watching this? Because that's the other thing. They're like, oh, I want him to just go watch it over there, and I would be embarrassed watching it with him. Okay, if that's really the truth, then, and you're fine with him doing it and you're not going to take it personally. I personally have found it was fun to do it with a partner, the kinds that I like, and they didn't care. They thought it was fun just that I was going to watch one. So let's find one that has pretty people and a good story for Christine.
There you go. It's like, you know, and again, I guess in some ways to look at it from that lens. And I mean, here's an experiment. If you're a couple and you wanted to look at this, is you sit and watch the porn together, but you look at it from the point of view of what works and what doesn't work for you personally.
Yes.
So when you're watching the act go on, you know, you as a woman could tell the man, it's like, this would never work for me, or this would work for me. And he'd say to her, it's like, you know, I don't know if I would do that. It doesn't feel right. Or, you know, in some ways you can use a adult movie, pornographic movie, as a educational tool that way. We can learn about each other as using the movie as a reference thing, not as a how-to, but as a reference of what does and doesn't work. So there's a sense of benefit you can get from it. So this is not the challenge, it's actually the use of it. So in that sense, it can be a good thing to have. But again, it's about you and your partner, not about you and your partner acting out or doing what's in the movie, because it's like, that's not going to help you. It really is about learning either with that. I mean, using the pornographic movie as an aid can work that way, as a tool to sort of qualify, because it may not be easy for you in bed, just the two of you, to say to each other what works or doesn't work. Maybe it's too challenging for you. Sometimes you can use the pornographic movie, or frankly any movie, Hallmark movie, whatever, to say, oh, that wouldn't work or that would work. And then it can help you get the intimacy of the conversation started, because you've got a level of communication that you can have, you know, leaning on some external reference point, so to speak. So you can use it that way if you as an option to make it work.
Yeah. Like toys. Toys are an option. They can be very enhancing. They can be really fun. You can play with yourself while the other person's there. You can play with the other person while they're there. It's an enhancement. It's an option. The porn movies absolutely have to be an extra. They need to be a bonus. They need to be an enhancer. They can never take the place of a real relationship with a real person that you're really with. That's going to always be the bottom line, right, Barry?
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you're alone and you want to just get your rocks off somehow, then maybe that can work for you. But in a relationship, it's why would you want to denigrate the quality of relationship with your partner by using an outside video to do that for you? That seems so counterproductive for what a relationship should really be about. You want to be additive to the relationship of your person, your partner, your intimacy and joy and all the passion and excitement and the climax, all these different things. Well, if using an outside influence, yeah, I mean, maybe if you're having a down spot and you want to build the energy that way, perhaps, but as a norm, no, definitely not.
Phew, we made it through. Good job, Barry.
Yeah, what can I say? We have good conversations.
We really do. So if you'd like to have a conversation with Barry or I, we mentioned earlier, you could go to my website, answer the questionnaire in the middle of my website, www.theperfectcatch.com. We could have a conversation about anything, including what you think about sex movies.
Yeah.
Also, feel free to send me a text or email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And while you're also on my website, you could scroll down to the bottom and click on all of my social media links, which is Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, with all the replays of our over 220 videos. You can also go to the top of my website and download my free dating advice book. It's absolutely free. All I ask is if you'd give me a review after.
Nice.
And tell people how they would find you socially.
Absolutely. Well, as mentioned at the break, you can go to my website, which is barryselby.com. Besides the option that I mentioned at the beginning, at the top of the screen, you can get on my calendar, we can have a conversation. At the bottom of the screen is an option to jump on some email lists. You can just get all these replays of these shows and the things I talk about in my work. So you don't want to be a follower that way. In the middle of the screen is one of my 2 quizzes. I have 2 now. That's a relationship readiness assessment. It really is basically giving you a chance to reflect on where you are in your relationship journey and what's ahead, but also know what works. So you can go there, you click on the button, or you go to barryselby.com/quiz, and you can do that. I said there are 2 quizzes. The second quiz, which is not something you can click on from the page, you have to go there directly, which is barryselby.com/self-quiz. As you may have guessed from the title, is a self-relationship assessment. Basically, it lets you look in the mirror, so to speak, and see where you are in relationship to yourself. And it has 7 different areas it goes through to really clarify what your relationship with yourself is about, where there's room for improvement, how well you're doing, so you can get clarity on that. There's also a downloadable PDF you get afterwards, which gives you lots of keys and tips and next steps. Both those quizzes do invite you to have a conversation with me as well, so you can go that way around to find out more about my work. Additionally, on my website, there is my book, which I have. It's also on Amazon, but if you go to barryselby.com/book, or you go to that through the navigation, at the top of the page for my book is a little audio track, which is this large language model or an AI generated review of my book done by two apparently very professional sounding book critic voices, a man and a woman talking about my book in very good, very educated terms. So if you want to get a preview of my book, listen to that 10-12 minute audio and then go buy my book from there, or go to Amazon, get it from there as well. Also, you can find my work under my name, Barry Selby, on all the social media platforms. So it's Barry Selby on YouTube, on Facebook, it's LinkedIn, Pinterest, Blue Sky, thanks everybody. And then also you find me on Instagram and Threads as The Real Barry Selby. And find me all over the place. We're both very prolific.
Very prolific. And you can also watch us live here every Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern. And then you can also watch us video on replay on Roku TV and also YouTube on your TV. And then you can take us with you, right, Barry?
Absolutely. We now have that show showing us in the podcast platform. So if you listen to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Amazon Podcasts, or to Google, one of those. I know that Apple and Spotify are the main ones. But if you want to listen to our show when you're not able to watch because you're out driving or walking or shopping or whatever you're doing, you can plug those into your ears and have a good listen to our shows. And as Christy mentioned, we've got over 220 episodes up now. So you have plenty of content to keep you going for weeks and weeks and weeks. So you can definitely learn some things that way.
And whether you're watching us or listening to us, we'd love you to share it with your friends who are having challenges with their dating relationships. Also, leave us a review and like us, please. And we'll be back next week with another interesting subject.
Oh, yes, scintillating indeed. We'll see you then.
We're always scintillating.
Take care. Bye.